All right, so today I'm going to try to do a whole lot better of staying up on this mic because after listening to that last video, I did really horrible on the audio. But we're here for the first recap. I'm going to try to just do this in one take and see if I can kind of explain the last couple days. The last video, the initial one that I put out for this account, that was on Monday. We didn't trade on Monday because it's President's Day. It's now Wednesday, and we are closing up 2 days of trading up just under 20 bucks. So good profit. Unfortunately, it's not necessarily a full on happy story. I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's definitely nice to be green. I think that we did good on our setups. I think we're doing well in analyzing the stocks, in having conversations with my buddy John beforehand, getting a good idea on the news catalyst, getting a good idea on the float, getting a good idea on the the overall potential of the stock based on other stocks that are uh, also giving the same indicators for the day on our screeners. So overall, good study on the start, and I think poor entries. That's my lesson for the last couple days is poor entries, and actually pretty decent exit. So let's take it back first to yesterday, Tuesday, and the trades we made then. I made 5%, roughly 5% on Tuesday, overall in the account, just over $5. Um, and initially we were looking at, I believe it was, well, it doesn't really matter. We were looking at a different stock, the GXAI maybe yesterday, I forget, but looking at a different stock when OLB just kind of took off out of nowhere. We saw earlier in the market, around 8:30, that it had its initial surge in the pre-market trading. Coming forward into the open, I guess I, for whatever reason, had just kind of written it off because it was so far below VWAP, and maybe I need to kind of relook at how that works with these kinds of stocks coming into the day. But sitting below $1, it was a little bit cheaper than I really wanted to get into. The other stock we were looking at was floating above. And with it being so far below the VWAP when that restarted, I just didn't have a lot of confidence in it. And sure enough, and I'm not really trading the first 5 minutes anyways, just because it's too volatile for me at the moment. I don't feel like I'm really um, gonna. I don't feel like I'm gonna excel at that right now. It's a little fast for someone like myself who's still a little bit green in the wrong way in trading. So left this alone. Kind of watched it play out over 10 minutes or so, and it lost all of the gain in that original pop at the market open. So kind of stopped paying attention to it for a moment. Went back to looking at some other stocks to see what was going to play out for us. And you'll see for OLB. Let me see here. If I click that, it should just bring up. Yep, recent orders for OLB. This is a canceled order, but we actually got in on February. I don't know why it does that. February 17th. So, like I said, on Tuesday at 9:47 and 3 seconds. So, saw an entry, and it was, I think, over, yep, on this candle here, where it had resurged, took all that candle back, looking to make a new high. Let's see if I can kind of give this in a better context of what it looked like for me in that moment. So at this point, at 9:47 and 3 seconds, I'm realizing my entries are very sloppy. Um, I think a large part for me is I need to check my greed. If I wasn't so greedy and wanting to capture these moves instead of just wanting to get in on good setups, FOMO wouldn't hit me as bad. FOMO hit me here. Um, I'd entered, and anyone that's watching this that knows a thing or two could guess this. Obviously, this candle is fully developed now, but what I had kind of saw was a bounce off the open for the day and a resurgence. And what I meant to do was to get in somewhere on this. In my head, what I thought I was doing was catching it before it got to this 87 breakout. But what happened was is it got checked there. just at the 86 mark, got checked. And of course it did. There's a struggle for a bit, and I end up holding through this pullback. This honestly, looking back at it, was just sloppy. I'm bought in here for, what is it? Average fill price of 85 cents, 70 shares, and then I sell at 89. So I do manage to capture, and what was that time at? 51. So I do manage to capture this little bump coming through here. I think in my head I'd kind of expected a resurgence towards the dollar, and maybe it wasn't a horrible execution on the trade overall. Ultimately, I am up, a few cents on this trade, but I just didn't like my entry. I think that I got to do a better job of waiting, not expecting these micro pullbacks in the 1 minute charts. You see, I've done all of this talking in the 1 minute chart, and I don't know if I change this to 5 minutes if it's gonna pull me away. Nope. Sorry, Robinhood's charts are not the cleanest. Someday soon we're gonna work on getting onto a different platform, but for now we're just gonna play around on Robinhood. So like I said, I'm in at 47, out at 51. So I mean, checking it on the, I mean, it's not the worst way to play, but uh, you know, it could have been a cleaner entry. I think overall, I really liked my setup. I liked, the technical pattern this played to, and gosh, I probably sound like an idiot. Bear in mind, I'm learning as we go on this. This is not a inform you on how to do this right kind of video. This is a don't do what I do. This is me actively learning in the process. Um, but happy with my exit on this one. Overall, up a few percent. Really happy with that. My daily goal on average is only going to be like 2% right now. If you remember going back to our goals and what we'd set just for this first month, expectations are low. I'm just hoping to get in for 2% daily profit and win 55% of them. Wins are 1.5 times bigger than my losses. This is really low level stuff, and honestly, I'd expect more of this math to play out by taking those trades later. See where my tab went. Those trades a little bit later in the morning. I've kind of made a commitment to myself that I'm not going to trade those first 5 minutes, um, and I think that's wise for me at the moment. I think someday I can get to the point where I'm fast enough and can understand what's happening quick enough to be able to get in and make those plays, but they're just so aggressive and so fast that it's just probably not there for me right now. But to get kind of back on point, I traded this a little bit more throughout the day. Took a little bit more profit on it. Nothing insane. Um, Farting around with the rest of my buying power, but ultimately that was the big move right there in gathering up on the 70 shares, the 4 cents in profit. So overall, not a bad way to start the week. Starting late on a Tuesday. Let's take this forward now to today. Huge green day up. You can see, just under $15. I was actually up 13%, and gave a little bit back in the last $6 in buying power that I had farting around, and I probably shouldn't have done that. But overall, a really, really good day on RXT. This should load us into today. I don't know why this does this. No, I'm back in the 17th. Forgive me, guys. There we go. This looks like a much better thing to trade than back on the 17th. So I was in on RXT as soon as my limit allowed me to. And again, the theme for me right now is I am in too early. I need to allow these setups to develop on this 5 minute chart. I'm looking at the 1 minute chart, and I'm just expecting micro pullbacks every single time, and I'm gonna get burned if I keep doing that. I'm lucky today, up just under $15. Really happy with the result. really happy again with the study and setup beforehand and finding this stock. This is definitely the one that caught my eye the most coming into this. We had also had, let's see what else was on today. AUUD that we were watching that was floating up around 60%, surged up to about 70% just before the market opened, and kind of plummeted pretty quick down to 60. It made it pretty obvious on the technical side of things that it wasn't, not just based on what I said right there, but just paying attention to the volume and the MACD and where everything was landing, in comparison to RXT, just was not our stock for the day. RXT, really happy that we got the setup, that we knew that this was going to be, the play for the day. A lot of other traders seemed hot on it. Really upset with my entry. Really upset with my entry because I slipped about $6, um, coming right out of my entry. It played around for a minute, and I got in at the, I hate that covers that, 9:35:06, so just after my limit on when I'm allowed to get into this thing. Um, I'm in on this, guys. Like this isn't good. I'm expecting like a micro pullback and like, all right, because I'm in here. I'm expecting it's surging over this candle. I'm thinking, all right, this is a micro pullback. We're gonna get a pop off this right now. And this is me in my greed, wanting, like, anticipating stuff instead of reading what's actually happening. And what's actually happening here is our volume is up and up and up coming into this initial surge, and there's a sell-off. And this is what I didn't pay attention to, is this is not a strong candle, right? Like this was a quick pop all the way up to, I think that's, yep, buck 19 cents, and then a quick sell-off. We're on the 1 minute chart. That's a pretty quick sell-off. And then for it to give this doji candle that is just fighting here, like, I should have known better. All right, we're above the moving average, right? We're above, or excuse me, the VWAP. We're above the VWAP, and that makes me feel a little too comfortable that this is my bounce here, and I get in off this surge, and dang, does it just plummet. Now, and this is where the day could have gone really poorly, because I could have been down $6 and just lost it right there. I calmed myself down and told myself, all right, we're lower on volume, lower on volume, lower on volume, a little bit higher on volume, but not anything significant. And the thing that really, really turned this around for me and why I stuck in the trade was, it's hard to see, just in this, but this bounced so hard off the day's open, making a higher low off of this candle here. I just based on that, I decided to stick in as long as we stayed above this dollar point, because I'm in for a buck 14 at this point on more shares. I filled more than I should have. 65 shares. That's more than I should have filled, all based on anticipation in a breakout. I should have been willing to, if this was going to break out in that 1 minute chart, I should have been willing to let it go. I don't need to chase those. That's me in anticipation, jumping in right as soon as my rules allow me to, on a setup that, yes, like, it could have popped. Other people could have seen that and jumped in on for the buy. That's not necessarily the safe play, though, and that's not what we're here for. Especially, for it to fall below the VWAP. I was just in a goofy spot. But seeing that huge buyback off the bounce, I decided to hold, because remember, like, I'm in at this point for 65-70% of my account value. So I'm in, like, I'm invested for the day. There's not much left for me in buying power, and I figured, all right, with that bounce, I'm willing to lose now up to this dollar, because if this thing can resurge, then I'm going to get some good money off this still. And sure enough, it it manages to kind of go flat for a minute before taking its bounce. And I ride this thing all the way through, and I had bought actually more, 30 shares more, as soon as I saw this candle make a new high. I think it was at that time anyway, so 37. Actually, I had bought it back here. That's what it was. I had scaled in a little bit more off this bounce. That's what had happened. Scaled in a little bit more off this bounce. Um, Figuring that it was getting checked at the VWAP. Still a little bit more aggressive than I really should have been. And it played out well for us. Thank goodness. But it's just not liking my entrance. Just not liking my entrance. It surges up, gets up above, right up to about buck 26 before selling back off. And I was fully aware when it was doing this that I could sell at this point. At this point, I'm up, I think it was like $8, $9. So a decent chunk of change on the day. But I figured, you know what? I'm willing to, as long as I'm willing to watch, I'm willing to lose half this candle at this point. Even if this loses most of the candle, I'm still up a few bucks on the day. And I really figured that this thing's going to break out for another one. At this point, AUUD is not doing well. There's not really any other stocks on the list for long positions where retail traders are going to be, excited about. And with this now, surged above the VWAP this early in the morning and the MACD looking really good, I figured, all right, we're going to give this thing another run. Sure enough, it does another pop up. I ride that all the way through and we sell the remainder of our positions, all 95 of them. That's 950, capturing it at a buck 28. Where did I capture that at? I think it was on the struggle. Yeah, 950. And so just before this candle ended up doing what it did, I just saw a bit of a struggle going on here at the top of the candle. It kind of fought there for a little while. So I left that alone. And you know what? I'm happy with that. I feel like we captured kind of what we needed to. Over the course of the rest of the day, this thing has kind of been still playing and fighting its way out. You can see now it's jumping up. But with having a cash account, if I was in a margin account, I could totally. I was in a meeting, unfortunately, with my work through all this. I'm coming up through here. But if this was a margin account, I'd still have buying power, and I 100% would have been in at least watching this kind of play over the rest of the day. And this is kind of a fun little deciding point right here. We're way above the VWAP. So we'll see what this does. But yeah, this is definitely a grinder for the day. 300% on the day. Oh my goodness. I'm sure there's plenty of people having all sorts of fun with it. So overall, happy with my study. Happy with, at least for now, the analysis coming through, and happy with my exit, not happy with my entrance. Really unhappy with my entrance, and I want to see improvement on that. Tomorrow, I'm going to make a new rule for myself. 5 minutes still, because I don't want to miss out on trading the window that I really need to be practicing in on that first pullback after the open. So I still need to be in that. I can't just let go of it. But I need to see setups on the 5-minute chart going forward, because what I didn't do correctly in this trade at all was taking a step back, appreciating the 5-minute candles, taking a moment to breathe. I am not ready yet to manage micro pullbacks. So that was not for me. But overall, obviously happy with the result. I mean, we've already met our goal for February. And we've got 6 days left to trade on my calendar, at least, with the other things that I have to do. So 6 days left, and February being up just about 27, actually just under it, a couple pennies, but up $27 overall in February. I'm pretty happy with where we're at. And hopefully we can keep a cool head, fix those couple things that we noticed today, and get back into this hopefully ahead. Cool. That's all I got. Thanks, guys.